Hello, everyone. I am Anusua. I go by Anu. So today I'm going to start about talking a little bit about myself and then about Oracle Health. About myself, I'm a computer scientist who had a lot of passion about health and healthcare. Started as a researcher in VA Hospital, worked in Texas Advanced Supercomputing Lab on genomic resources, and then worked in Microsoft Research for almost 10 years, AI for Healthcare, then AI for Good Research Lab. Got burnt out by failure of healthcare in COVID, moved to e-commerce for 3 years, but then couldn't stay away, and back again doing healthcare for AI. So that's a little bit about myself. So you know, it's a deep-seated passion which basically brings out the researcher in me. Now a little bit about Oracle Health. Most of the people I met today were really surprised what Oracle is doing in healthcare. So there are two large EMR systems in the US, Epic and Cerner. Oracle acquired Cerner back in 2021. It was one of the largest acquisitions by Oracle. And now, as a result, we own almost half the patient population's data in Oracle. That's a lot of responsibility, and we want to bring a lot of impact onto our patient lives through the applications of AI. And thus, I'm here kind of trying to do that. So just to iterate a little bit about the need for automating the healthcare system. Just to lay out the land, how the impact of a patient's life goes through a full circle. There's a provider, the hospital systems, or the clinicians who are working regularly, meeting with us, trying to help improve us. There are payers, the insurance, who support us and get treated in the right manner. There is a lot of analytics which goes into how our insurance is distributed, how our providers can or cannot treat ourselves. And then there is pharma and life sciences, where there are new drugs constantly coming out, trying to figure out, hey, how is a patient's life safely treated? Now, connecting all these various different domains and all these different varied KPIs or success of metric is very different. Providers want to keep as many of the patients into the system as possible. Payers, out, do not want to keep them in the system. So how do you kind of build these generic systems? It's not the job of a single foundational model. That's come the agentic frontier, like the next generation agents, where it's a combination of different tools, not just of a foundational LLM model to bring all these different various aspects to treat a patient's life. Now, some of the applications that Oracle is working on is accelerate the discovery and development of new insights and therapies. Imagine in your EHR, your provider can start seeing an ethical ad to start saying, hey, this drug is not safe for this particular cohort of patients if you have this comorbidity. How useful it will be if you can be recommended to a forward-looking therapy for an oncology or cancer, which there is no drug known today, right? So those are some of the cutting-edge things where life science and provider systems can definitely get married into to solve. There are clinicians engaging with patients and clinical trials. So when you go and visit a clinician, most of the time, they turn away from you and they're just typing and taking notes. How good it will be if you can automate the data extraction from the communication between the patient and the physician and automatically populate the EHR systems, because at the end of the day, that's what most of the systems like Scribe do. So if you can do that in an ethical and private and secure manner, it would give the physician more time to have that direct patient communication and focus on the patient rather than taking the administrative notes. Deliver insight and therapies into hands of clinicians, as I just said, right? Figuring out for oncology patients how to basically make all of these trials and therapies accessible to all. So now comes the agentic piece, right? Why agentic AI in health and life sciences? So healthcare data is extremely unstructured and noisy, and there's a high cost of error for any predictive model. It could be basically cost of a patient's life. So there is very low margin of error that we are working with. Now, and continuously shifting objectives. Some of our colleagues are essentially just medical informatics folks who are working years and years as an RN or in like companies with 3M Medical and just works on evolving codes and concept IDs to map diseases and all of these things, right? So there's a lot of shifting objectives every year. These codes keep on changing. How do you make sure that the treatment plan a care manager or physician is developing for a patient does not fall out of insurance and the patient is not thrown out? So that is the major goal for us to bring healthcare for everybody. Now, Agentic AI keeps us honest in like the continuous spanning phase. A lot of tool execution reduces the dependency on just LLMs. And there is, of course, the reinforcement learning, which is a self-correction piece, which helps bridge the decision support, automation, and reasoning. So today, we're just moving from assistants to autonomous collaborators. If you remember, this is something which, the AI godfather, Geoffrey Hinton, said, healthcare is the only place where if you throw tons of autonomous agents, it will keep imbibing without affecting any human workforce because there's so much lack of human workforce and knowledge in this space. So the AI user experience patterns for pop health and life sciences, we are trying to divide it up into two large sections. One is a deep research agent, another is the agentic fleet. The deep research agent, think about it as your analytics consultant, where they anticipate the questions, they embed the workflows for personas across different pop health and life sciences. Your quality manager's workflow is very different from your clinical care manager's workflow, from your physician's workflow. These are different personas coming at different stages of your treatment plan and trying to do different tasks. And this whole end-to-end scenario is what delivering a good healthcare to you. Trying to understand the tasks for those personas and planning accordingly is what the deep research agent's major focus is. And the agentic fleet, think of it as more autonomous tasks happening in the back end, where the agents are driving seamless actions across different cohorts of patients, different campaigns to be launched for different diabetic patients versus COPD patients. Always on monitoring patients, figuring out the adverse events for a drug safety, right? So these are all autonomous agents continuously running in the background as agentic fleet, continuously communicating with each other. So if I'm to break out the components of the AI pattern here, this is how the flow would look like. A deep reasoning agent, somebody can come and ask and get informed and understands the evidence and the data, and then basically informs or delegates the task to the agentic fleet, where the agentic fleet is taking autonomous action, providing assistance, monitoring and triaging the right cohort of patient to the right problem space. And all of these steps are eventually creating high-quality curated data at the back end that you can continuously keep on ingesting, extracting, and normalizing to provide that evidence of support. Because that is what we are lacking in healthcare from the noisy, unstructured data. We have to focus on basing our thoughts. So if I'm to define what a health frontier agent could look like, it would be a mixture of primitives. What is a mixture of primitives? The deep research agent, the autonomous fleet that I just spoke about. If basically we can define it as a mixture of primitives combining basic agent-based or tool-based building blocks. And when the primitives are leveraged correctly, we see a highly emergent order behavior, right? You can have a base LLM, you can keep on tuning it, and then you can have your actions like planning, semantic search, simulation, which is basically now delegating all these agents to do all the tasks. Some examples, as I mentioned, the digital care manager, trial matching to do like site visibility and recruitment of patients, safety agents like for adverse drugs. The digital care manager usually, just to give you an example, is like usually sits in between the patient and the physician. To give you an idea about how less percentage of our patients gets it, it's only 1% of extremely ill patients have care managers. What if we can create digital copies of this care manager to scale and benefit every patient? This is an example of a deep research agent where it has basically gone and collected the real-world evidence and started generating this dashboard. It is actually trying to get you the trial cost. It had done some market analysis and predicted your time to market for your drug, expected your trial duration, cost of the subject, all of the breakdown. Now, you can ask a question, why certain trial design suggestions have been made. For example, why certain cohort of patients were excluded from this design of the trial study. From there, it will go and kind of try to rationalize that patients with liver cirrhosis are excluded from this phase 2 trial study because of some safety concerns, and it can go on to produce a detailed report for you. So some of the lessons learned is tools are mandatory. We definitely need an auditable planning. Modular monthly agent workflows helps you evaluate your tasks better. Hybrid decisioning is something which is coming more and more on board. And the state and the context continuity is ever important. Some of the guiding tenets: we need meaningful evals versus abstract measures. Results as a service is autonomously solving the problems. Flexibility to use the best in class as they evolve versus locking down into a single LLM or a framework. Providing the right size for the complexity, expecting as many builders as you kind of make your task more and more complex. And uncompromising on safety and resilience, privacy and security, trustworthiness, and transparency. Lastly, we're hiring, so feel free to reach out and help us build this together. Thank you.